Okay, everybody, this is Joseph P. Farrell. It is Thursday, April 10th, 2014, and I want to get right to the news. This is take two for me. I had a bit of a problem with the previous take. I have two articles I want to talk about. One is a Der Spiegel article with an interview with the German foreign minister, and the other one is a Zero Hedge article. There's big news concerning Russia and Germany. Now let me start off. The German the German Interior Minister is a fellow by the name of Thomas de Maizière, and he is from. Just to tell you a little bit about his family, the de Maizière family is medieval. In other words, it is a long old family, and it's from that area of Alsace-Lorraine, or if you're in Germany, Alsace-Lothringen, that was part of the continual disputes between Germany and France for so long. The de Matzera family is very prominent in Germany and has been very prominent since about the middle of World War II on up to today. There was a German general by the name of Ulrich de Matzera that was also a post-war Bundeswehr general staff officer, and now Thomas de Matzera is also evidently from this family. Now, I want to point something out about this gentleman. He is of cabinet rank, obviously, being the interior minister for Germany. So, in other words, he is speaking from an extremely high level within the German government. And he also is described in the Der Spiegel interview with him, that I'm going to read some sections to you, as a self-confessed transatlanticist. In other words, he is one of those people in the German power elite that believes Germany should always orient itself toward a Western foreign policy. And this has always been the struggle and give and take within German foreign policy, to lean to the West or to lean to the East. Now, Der Spiegel begins the interview by asking Minister de Matzera, 9 weeks ago at the Munich Security Conference, you demanded that the United States provide detailed information about its spying activities in Germany. Have you received anything from them yet? And de Matzera responds, the information we have received thus far is insufficient. And then de Matzera goes on to add this. Even if 2/3 of what Edward Snowden has presented, or what has been presented with his name cited as the source, is true, I would conclude that the USA is operating without any kind of boundaries. Der Spiegel, are you hopeful that anything will change in the near future, perhaps when Chancellor Angela Merkel visits President Barack Obama in May? De Matzera is very clear in his response. He says, quote, I have low expectations that further talks will prove to be successful, but of course these talks are continuing. Der Spiegel, don't you expect a no-spy agreement to result from these discussions? De Matzera, going by everything I've heard, that is the case. In other words, there will be no agreement on spying. Then Der Spiegel asks this, quote, in internal documents, Britain's General Communications Headquarters Intelligence Service spoke of, quote, mastering the internet, unquote. Does that worry you, unquote? De Matzera responds this way. Yes, it worries all of us. The internet, and this is one of its true strengths, depends on freedom. But the explosive propagation of communication has led to problems of order and choice, a situation that has been exacerbated by the market power of corporations. Because if a net provider and content provider join forces, then they can steer the internet and determine its content. So I don't even need to be talking about state censorship here. Der Spiegel continues, do you believe that private companies represent a greater threat than state institutions? De Matzera, yes. I find a country's unrestrained collection of information, even for the sake of exaggerated security need, to be less objectionable than the capture of all movement profiles, thoughts, and emotions by people for the sake of business interests, unquote. And there it is. You have a confirmed pro-Western cabinet-level minister within Chancellor Merkel's government stating very directly that he objects and finds extremely troublesome the use of this internet spying capability to provide financial data and give the people gathering this information financial leverage. And in the ultimate insider trading mechanism financial advantage. So in other words, Germany is serving in the form of its probably most pro-Western intelligence cabinet, or pardon me, pro-Western cabinet members in the form of Minister de Matsera, a clear signal that the recent responses of the United States to the electronic eavesdropping are clearly not acceptable. Now, this is huge news, and I want you to remember this interview in the context now of an article that appeared on Zero Hedge concerning U.S. sanctions and Russia's response. The article is entitled U.S. Threatens Russia Over the Petrodollar. And I want to read a few passages in here because I've been predicting that we are going to see inevitably put into place a BRICSA form of international independent financial clearing free of the U.S. dollar and free of U.S. corporations. And Russia is now signaling that this is very clearly what they're up to. The article begins, quote, on the heels of Russia's potential Holy Grail gas deal with China, the news of a Russia-Iran oil barter deal, it appears that the U.S. is starting to get very concerned about its almighty petrodollar. The U.S. has warned Russia, Iran against possible oil barter deal. U.S. says any such deal would trigger sanctions. U.S. has conveyed concerns to the Iranian government through all channels. We suspect these sanctions would have more teeth than some travel bans, but, as we noted previously, it is likely to be another epic geopolitical debacle, resulting from what was originally intended to be a demonstration of strength instead is rapidly turning out into a terminal confirmation of weakness. Now, listen carefully. Here's the voice of Russia. Russia prepares to attack the petrodollar. And please understand, folks, the voice of Russia is much more closely related to the Russian government as a propaganda organ than is RT. All right, so it's much tighter. In a certain sense, you can look at it as the continuation of TASS, Izvestia, Pravda, and so on. And here's what the voice of Russia says, quote, the U.S. dollar's position as the base currency for global energy trading gives the U.S. a number of unfair advantages. It seems that Moscow is ready to take those advantages away. Lately, China has led the BRICS efforts to dislodge the dollar from its position as the main global currency, but the sanctions war between Washington and Moscow gave an impetus to the long-awaited scheme to launch the petro-ruble and switch all Russian energy exports away from the U.S. currency. The main supporters of this plan are Sergei Glaziev, the economic aide of the Russian president, and Igor Sechin, the CEO of Rosneft, the biggest Russian oil company and a close ally of Vladimir Putin. On March the 2nd, Andrei Kostin, the CEO of the state-owned VTB Bank, told the press that Gazprom, Rosneft, and Rosoboron Export, a state-owned company specializing in weapons exports, can start trading in rubles. I've spoken to Gazprom, Rosneft, and to Rosoboron Export Management, and they don't mind switching their export to rubles. They only need a mechanism to do that. And bingo, folks, that's it right there. That's the signal now that Russia is going to drop dollars and take only rubles in payment, and that they're going to set up the mechanism to do that. Now, as if that's not enough, Zero Hedge says one more thing in its article. Quote, it seems that Moscow has decided who will be in charge of the boomerang, referring to the boomerang from sanctions. Igor Sechin, the CEO of Rosneft, has been nominated to chair the board of directors of the St. Petersburg Commodity Exchange, a specialized commodity exchange. In October 2013, speaking at the World Energy Congress in Korea, Sechin called for a, quote, global mechanism to trade natural gas, unquote, and went on suggesting that, quote, it was advisable to create, here it comes, an international exchange for the participating countries where transactions could be registered with the use of regional currencies, unquote. Now, one of the most influential leaders of the global energy trading community has the perfect instrument to make this plan a reality: a Russian commodity exchange where the reference prices for Russian oil and natural gas will be set in rubles instead of dollars, and this will be a strong blow to the petrodollar, unquote. Now, there it is, folks. I want you to pay attention in this coming week to the blogs I have on the website scheduled and coming up, because they are also other strong indicators that the BRICS nations, as I've predicted, are starting to set up the mechanisms for international clearing. Now, notice they're doing this very carefully. They're doing it in certain reserved areas: energy, armaments now, and so on. But this will inevitably expand, all right? Now, the context here is with Germany. You're seeing a nation whose economy is driven by exports, and a lot of it to the Eurasian countries, and their energy imports dependent on Russia and on Eurasia. So inevitably, what's going to happen is the backlash from the U.S. spying are going to set in stage not only this system of economic and international financial clearing, independent of the West and its mechanisms, Visa, MasterCard, and all the other things. But the other thing that this means is, in my opinion, and we can make this prediction, that the next step you're going to see is a gradual wooing on the part of the BRICS nations of Germany, and eventually this is going to be targeted at American bases and the whole NATO alliance system in Europe. That's what's coming down the pike here. And if they don't get their act together in Washington and pull back from this unipolar, let's impose American order on everybody, the jig is up, because Russia is very intent on putting these mechanisms into place and bypassing the dollar. And I think this time around, as you're going to see in the coming week, there's another player that's entering that scene and saying the same thing, and it's going to expand, folks. So hang on, folks. It's going to get bumpy. We're going to see you on the flip side. God bless everybody. Bye bye.